Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Matt Leonard. So Matt, what do you think of the following musical celebrities have in common? Debbie Gibson, Twisted Sister, Mariah Carey, and Billy Joel.
Well, they are all pretty big stars. I'm guessing they either have something to do with today's guest and topic, or maybe you just like singing their songs in the shower.
You caught me. While the latter might be true, they are in fact inductees in the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, which is an organization recognizing musicians who have contributed to the musical heritage of Long Island. Let's welcome to the show a good friend of WHPC, Mr. Norm Prusslin, the co-founder of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Norm, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just say up front, HPC is a terrific radio station. I've had the chance to be at studios a couple of times, not recently, but a time or two over the last couple of years. And you run a good shop there, so congrats on the continuing great work.
Thanks for the kind words. You made our day, and let's close the show with that right now. Why go forward?
We'll do the rest another time.
Can't get any better than that. Norm, I'm interested in this because I didn't know about it. Can you tell myself and the audience what is the Long Island Music Hall of Fame all about and how it got started?
Sure. And actually, it's a very interesting story. Backtracking, what I do most of the time is I teach at Stony Brook University, and I've been teaching a variety of primarily media and journalism classes, but some additional ones that are like pop culture, music, rock related classes. Sometimes just portions of classes focus on that, and in recent years, a couple of standalone classes that focus on that. And so I've been connected to Stony Brook a very long time, and Stony Brook has a very a long history of being very integral in the Long Island, actually Northeast pop rock concert music scene. So many just unbelievable concerts were staged at Stony Brook, starting particularly in the late 60s and running through the 70s and 80s and beyond at a variety of venues. And I had the opportunity to attend many of them. And people would always talk about the role that Stony Brook played, bringing these artists to Long Island, in many cases for the first time. For instance, the Grateful Dead, the very first paid East Coast gig Grateful Dead ever did was at Stony Brook. That was in 1967. And some of the first Long Island appearances of other bands, crept up starting like in 68, 69, 70. And one common thread, I should say, that kind of links it for me is that there's a band that was hugely successful, certainly in the 70s and the 80s, and is still around, Blue Oyster Cult. And they started here at Stony Brook. And actually the individual that kind of created them, gave them their name, gave Donald Roser the name Buck Dharma. Sandy Pearlman was a Stony Brook student. And shortly after he graduated, he put together an ensemble of musicians that were just jamming. And they eventually went through a couple of names and name changes. And 50 years ago, actually, next year, the first Blue Oyster Cult record came out. And so, I've known them since, friends with them since. And so that's sort of like a common thread that, when they go around and tour, they're always talking about their Long Island roots and, Stony Brook in particular. So I've always felt that, Long Island had a lot to say about the music industry. So what happened was it was the summer of 2003. So that's about 18 years ago. Of course, everyone probably knows the perennial music magazine on Long Island called Good Times. But there have been others over the years, and off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of this one. But I happened to pick it up. And in the editorial, the writer was writing about his recent visit to the Georgia Music Hall of Fame and mentioned, well, wouldn't it be great to have a Long Island Music Hall of Fame. And his name was and is Rich Lahamadou. And I didn't know him. So I sent him an email. And I sent, it's actually September 7th, 2003, when I sent him the email. I didn't know him. And I said, I read with interest, your editorial. It's something that here at Stony Brook, we've been dabbling with in a variety of ways over the years. And I think it's very interesting. And I think the time has come to think about that. So I invited him to the campus, and we each invited, a handful of other people we knew that were, pretty involved in the Long Island music scene. And we had a discussion about, is this something that has the time come for something like this? And people were just so positive about this idea. Unbelievably, between September 2003 and January of 2004, that's a short, just several month period, we were able to formulate the plans for the organization. It became a nonprofit museum status organization. And I think it was in January of 2004, we announced it at a press conference at the Patchogue Theater. Dee Snider, actually, from Twisted Sister, joined us, and he kind of made some comments as well about the importance of this. And we were off and running in 2004. So since that time, our mission is multi-purpose, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Most people probably know about the inductions, the famous people and maybe not so famous people who are inducted. Prior to COVID, since 2006, we would have an induction gala ceremony every other year, starting in 2006. And obviously, we didn't have one last year, but we did another version of it, which I'll talk about. And obviously, we'll do one hopefully in 2022. So, we did them in 06, 08, 10, 12, 14. 16.
You've already, in the first few minutes of the show, given me such an education on Long Island and music. And these are all things I personally didn't know about. So what a wealth of information you have, Matt.
Well, yeah. And I have to say that, the excitement was just, everyone we mentioned it to, they said, well, this is great. This is great. And people were talking about, the obvious names, people who say, well, if you go on Jeopardy and they say, who's from Long Island? I guess Billy Joel will probably be the name that pops up. But there are just so many people that are really have their roots here. Now, one thing that we decided to do early on, which we wondered how people would receive it, is that we include, it's geographical Long Island. So we include Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk as geographical Long Island. So there are worthy people that have been inducted and will be inducted, and in addition to being part of other things we do.
That seems fair.
That are Brooklyn-based and Queens-based. When we had our first induction ceremony, which was at the Patchogue Theater also in 2006. Billy Joel was one of the first people inducted, and he gave his blessings, to that. He said, absolutely, and Brooklyn and Queens are really part of this. So I think once he spoke, that kind of that was that in terms of people responding to that.
He set the rules.
So, so that's probably the most, the sexiest thing that, maybe most people, if they know about the Music Hall of Fame, probably know about that. But we're just as proud of so many of the other things we do, which we'll talk about. Scholarships for students, educator of notes for music teachers, high school recognitions. We have a mobile bus that I'll talk about, which we rolled out a little bit before the pandemic. So obviously we haven't been able to follow up on that. Workshops, and again, we've done virtual ones, since the pandemic, and the hope, for a permanent brick and mortar showcase, a museum, I guess you would call it, for Music Hall of Fame. And we've had places that we've looked at in the past. We were in one place temporarily for a while. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's something that hopefully eventually we would like to really nail down.
Well, one question I had was, you mentioned a lot of artists have their roots on Long Island, and some of the big names, like we said earlier, Billy Joel, Mariah Carey, who some people don't know, I'm surprised about that she's from Long Island as well. Yep. Are there any big names that you can think of that people just do not know are from around here?
Well, some of the names that you mentioned, they may not know. I mean, the classes that I teach when the students are in music, I mean, they're always surprised that, I didn't know they were from Long Island. Mariah Carey is a good example, from Huntington. People don't necessarily realize, that's where she's from. And we also, just digging a little bit deeper into, the artist relationship to Long Island. Clearly, if they're born either in Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk, I mean, obviously that's a starting point, clearly. But we also induct artists that may have come from somewhere else, but they didn't make their mark musically until they came to Long Island. And they did their initial work and stayed here, or they're still here. An example of that, for instance, might be the group Zebra. Now, Zebra is a really great rock band, originally from New Orleans. I mean, that's where they were from. So they came to Long Island. And of course, the Good Rats, which is a legendary Long Island band, and they're also inducted, said, hey, come to Long Island. This is where all the local clubs are, and you can work regularly. So bands like Zebra and Twisted Sister, this is where they started. So Zebra is an example of, well, I didn't know they were from here. They're from here because they came here. They made their mark here. They were able to get their record contract through to extensive radio play, initially by WBAB on Long Island. The Stony Brook station actually may have been the first station to actually play any Zebra music recorded at one of the clubs. So, so we consider them a Long Island band, but, they're from New Orleans. They're also inducted into the New Orleans Music Hall of Fame, which I think is fair. People like Mariah Carey, Joan Jett, she's another one. She wasn't born here, but when she came here, she really established herself as a solo artist. She was in the original band, The Runaways, and, that was not from Long Island. But when she came here, she hooked up with her manager-to-be, who's still her manager, and that's where it started for her. I mean, she considers, Long Island very important to her. She was also one of the people inducted in our first induction ceremony. We have a lot of those clips, video clips on our website, which I'll talk about. And we're very lucky that we've gotten some very nice coverage, local press and national press, about the induction and gala ceremonies that we've done. And so a lot of these clips are either like, TV news snippets, that they aired that we have, or our own video crews, that would record stuff. So we do have stuff from the very first one, 2006. And I think that's a good intro to what we're all about.
Norm, before I interrupt with a question, Matt, do you have an announcement you want to make?
Yep, I do, Bill. You're right. You are listening to My Hometown on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Matt Leonard. I'm along with Bill Horan, and today we are talking about the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, an organization recognizing musicians who have contributed to the music heritage of Long Island, with our guest and good friend of the station here at WHPC, Mr. Norm Prusslin, the co-founder of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Now, Bill, I'm sure you got a great question to ask our guest, so I'm going to throw it back over to you.
Well, I'm more interested in finding out, Norm, right now, where would someone go to see the museum, or how would they see these artifacts?
Okay. Well, as I said, right now, we... At the current time, we do not have a physical location. We did have one for a short period of time in Port Jefferson, going back a couple of years. And, it's a very complicated, as you can imagine, it's a very complicated process, trying to find the best location. And that's part of the, the challenge that we have, because, we're including Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk, and anywhere you put it, if it's a physical place, someone's going to say, well, that's too far. How are we supposed to get there? So we've had, offers from a number of different sites under very varying, conditions in terms of what the arrangement would be. The one in Port Jefferson worked out nicely for the time that it did, but then it didn't. So we stopped that. And so we still have, some possibilities. So at the moment, there is no physical space. Although I should say, once in a while, this is before COVID, of course, we would do some like temporary exhibits, and we've done them at Stony Brook. Actually, it's just easy for me to help.
Well, maybe we can give a shout out today if there's a developer, real estate person,
please,
or a politician. We pass buildings. We see so much around Long Island. What a great draw to have the Long Island Museum there.
Absolutely.
The Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. If anybody calls your station with a name or a contact, you can definitely pass it along. So again, there's no
hearing this and jumping into it.
There's no physical place, but. And again, this is before COVID. We were very fortunate to obtain a very working mobile bus that we were able to rehab. And we spent a lot of time. We have a terrific person on our board. His name is Kevin O'Callahan. By day, he is just a wonderful, I don't want to call him an art teacher because he's really more than that. He's in the city where he teaches, but he's been involved with like the MTV Music Awards, and he's done all of these just tremendous installations. Anyway, so he was our curator, and he worked with a team of people to design what this physical footprint of the bus could be and how much stuff you could put in it, and people can walk through it. So we do have some video of that also on our website. And I should say the website is limusichallofFame.org. So it's limusichallofFame.org. So you'll see some video clips of the museum up there, and you'll see some photographs certainly from the museum, the mobile bus museum. Prior to COVID, we would take it to schools, and that's what we really love to do. Students, can come through it. It's a very, it's easy, it's quick. We have a person that kind of is the tour guide that walks everybody through in terms of what's there. And we have video monitors in there that, play some of the highlights and clips of musicians, and we have some memorabilia and things that artists have donated to us to use for the glass exhibit, more or less. And we have posters, and on the floor, which Kevin designed, which is really wonderful, as you walk through the length of the bus on the floor, there are covers of record albums replicated on the floor. And they're all record albums by artists that are in the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
That's so cool. You're kind of the DoorDash of music, aren't you? You bring the music to them.
I'll tell you. And then we would bring it to festivals. That's really where people were really knocked out. And then we brought it to Jones Beach. We brought it to Westbury, the Great South Bay Music Festival, which is a terrific summer festival, which again hasn't happened the last 2 years because of COVID. We've been bringing the bus there. I think that's where it made its first appearance, actually. The timing wise.
That is awesome. And actually perhaps even better than maybe, not that we don't want those politicians and business developers to get you the physical museum, but the bus sounds like it might make it accessible to even more people.
Absolutely.
You come to them.
Yeah, we really are. And again, like everything else, it's just been disappointing that we haven't been able to bring it out. But the many times that we were able to do so, probably, I think we had it at least for about 2 years before COVID, at least 2 years. The response is just exceptional. It's very rewarding. And I have to say that, for me personally, obviously this was an idea that, we had, and who knows, people have great ideas and who knows. It's one thing to have an idea, and then of course you have to execute it, and you got to get buy-in from people. And this is, bigger than just me or my co-founder Rich Lahamadou or the first board of directors. I mean, it's just been.
But that's how things develop. That's how it works.
That's exactly how it works. And we do have sponsors that underwrite the gala, and again, we thank them on our website. The bus is underwritten by Jovia. We thank them very much for helping to offset many of the costs for operating.
That's the bank, correct? The Jovia
right,
Bank?
Yes. Yes, the bank. And they're our partners. They're our families and our.
Now that you said that, I'm going to go this afternoon and take a loan out. I'll get a new car or something.
There you go.
I'll bring Matt with me. So you just got them some business.
There you go. And our inductees are oftentimes, based on their schedule, very willing, to come and speak to classes. We've had so many of them. Albert Bouchard, most of the Blue Oyster Cult guys have come. Garland Jeffries, Richie Canada, from the original Billy Joel band.
If someone is interested in, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if someone is hearing this, a teacher or a music department, and is interested, do they get in touch with you and schedule something?
Yeah, they can go. Again, this is all up on the website. The generic email for anything related to the Music Hall of Fame is very simple. It's info@limusichall-of-fame.org. And then, if they don't know where to send it, they can just send it there. And then we channel it to the people that, would be following up on that. But it's all up on the website, which again is limusichall-of-fame.org. And there's, the search bar, the links and all the different categories: scholarships, gala, inductees, workshops.
I think it would be really inspiring. Anyone taking music should know about what's going on in the local area. And when they see some of the names, because these are names that even non-music people recognize, they're nationally known, they're stars. I mean, that's what they are. And it's nice to know they came from, to use our show's name, my hometown.
Yeah, and we were very certain that we wanted to call this the Long Island Music Hall of Fame and not the Long Island Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And some people just, casually call it that way because they just assume that's the name. But it's really Music Hall of Fame, which is really our intention because we include, all kinds of music. Many jazz musicians, folk artists are in there, world music. One of the most memorable inductions that we did, and again, this was, something I was pushing for quite some time, is the Shinnecock Nation is actually inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame for obviously Native American music and culture that came from this part of the world. And that was such a great ceremony. Members of the Shinnecock Nation came in, traditional Native American garb, and they sang, and it was just terrific. It was just terrific.
Sounds like you had a great organization.
Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that so many of the hip hop rap artists are from Long Island. LL Cool J from Long Island, EPMD from Long Island, Run DMC, obviously. Queens, Hollis, Queens. And actually, you may, I don't know, this is actually very specific to WHPC, actually. I don't know if you know the long time history of WHPC, but Adelphi University used to have an FM radio station. And Nassau Community College and Adelphi shared 90.3 for many, many years. And then one year, the then president of Adelphi decided we don't need the radio station anymore. So WBAU, which was the Adelphi University radio station, went off the air, and then HPC claimed the full frequency. So you owe Adelphi University a lot for relinquishing their part of the broadcast day.
Well, thank you to Adelphi.
Yeah, the reason why I mention that is because that's where the hip-hop rap group Public Enemy started. They were part of the staff there at BAU. Chuck D, Flavor Flav, those guys. That's where it all started. And Public Enemy is one of the pioneering hip-hop rap groups for sure. So it's just been terrific to recognize and celebrate that music. And a lot of people don't know that so many of those artists are from here.
There are a lot of great artists in the Hall of Fame, but what other artists are being considered for the next induction ceremony?
Well, that's something that we keep under wraps.
It might be you.
Yeah. So I certainly don't want to
Matt Leonard. I'm sitting next to a star.
Advance the story here, because we try to keep that. We try to get the word out about those things in a specific way. Well, let me say that what we intend to do is we did have we had hoped to have the 2020 induction, and prior to typically it's November of the year of the induction, so it would have been November of 2020. So usually well, first of all, let me talk a little bit about the way that works. For anybody can nominate anybody that they think is worthy of consideration to go into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. And we get a lot of emails and phone calls saying, "Hey, what about this person? Hey, what about this person?" So we treat everyone with respect, and we say, "Okay, thank you for submitting it. We'll take a look at it." And what we've obviously, from a logistical standpoint, we only do a certain number every induction year, and it could vary to be like 8 or 10 a year or 12 or something like that. And we do try to spread it out to different categories. So, for instance, musicians for sure. Sometimes we'll do producers, people that really were producers that came from here and they weren't musicians themselves. Venues that have been important. So venues that are already inducted include Stony Brook, Jones Beach, the Westbury Music Fair, or whatever it's called now. So they are inductees. So we leave, space for them.
Norm, you've been in education today. Thank you so much. Really, I had no idea of all this, the background and what you've told me. And really, your classes must be wonderful at Stony Brook. I'd like our audience to know that we've been talking with Mr. Norm Prusslin. He's the co-founder of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Norm, thanks for taking your time and spending it with educating us today, truly. I'd like our audience to know that I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Matt Leonard. We thank you for listening to this week's edition of My Hometown.
We'd like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC at ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.